Welcome back. We are past the halfway point on tonight's episode, and we have our second guest. I think everybody's going to really enjoy her, so get your pen and paper out because what she has to offer is probably going to impact you in one way or another. We have Alana Reese. She is from 6S Compass, and yes, that sounds just like 6S, but it's 6S Compass, and she is a job alignment coach. So that goes perfectly what we're trying to do, which is get people to that next level, that next point of their life where they can reach that pivotal change. So, Elanna, welcome on the show tonight.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here, Ryan.
Well, I appreciate that. And so, our guests usually watch with a pen and paper and jot some notes, but they also haven't met you before. So, as far as a job alignment coach, people may or may not be familiar with what that is. So, can you just kind of quickly tell us a little bit about yourself and your background, and basically what do you do with backgrounds? And what I know is helping people transition.
Yes. And that stems a little bit from my background as well. So, after I graduated from business school, I went into brand management and loved it. It was a great career path until I pivoted. From there, I became an entrepreneur. I had a brick and mortar ice cream shop, went back into brand marketing, and then again back on this entrepreneurial journey. And now what I do is I help people figure out their own career transitions. We all have a lot of interests. And so I help people focus on their career transitions. Sometimes it's just about landing a new job, and sometimes it's actually about creating some kind of pivot.
I like that a lot. And I think people don't realize the importance. Oftentimes, we've had brand ambassadors and certain types of people of that nature. And that is starting to become a much heavier thought in people's minds is how to project themselves and things like that. So, as you're helping people go through this change, this pivot in life, you're going to have to look at, I'm sure, several areas and do all kinds of little analytical measurements. Just tell us, what's the first area you look? Where's the first area of attack for you when consulting and taking on a new client?
Yeah. So when prospective clients come to me and they know that they want to make some kind of transition, one of the things that we talk about is why. Why? Are you unhappy where you are? And usually there's a yes to that. And the question is, are you unhappy because you don't like what you do? Or are you unhappy because you don't like the people you work with? Or are you unhappy because there's been a change in the company's goals? What about where you are right now is making you dissatisfied? And that can be hugely helpful to determine what kind of pivot, what kind of transition do we really need to focus on. For example, if somebody loves what they do, but they just don't like who they do it for or who they're working with, that's a great story of let's continue with what you're doing. Let's just find another environment to do it in. And vice versa. If somebody absolutely loves who they work with, loves their management, loves the company culture, but they just don't like what they're doing, sometimes you don't actually have to leave the organization. Sometimes you can actually find a pivot or transition internally to satisfy both of those things.
I like that a lot. So it looks like you're doing a lot of resolving of cognitive dissonance. People see themselves in a certain way, a certain life. I should be living my life like this. But for one reason or another, either I'm not doing the right thing or I'm just not in the right place. You're helping them do this self-reflection and doing this looking into it to say, how can we get you in alignment with how you want to live your life, see yourself, your skill set, ultimately in the joy that you can get out of life instead of some capacity of suffering. And I think alleviating suffering is a pretty noble cause. So let's talk about, I kind of just use the word here, kind of like a reflection or assessment type of thing. So if people are looking to pivot either a career and skill set, or they're looking to just pivot out of an organization, what does that process kind of look like? You said attacking the why. So to tell us a little more detail, what is that process of discovering the why?
Yeah, so if somebody says, I'm not happy with what I'm doing, I don't know what it is. I'm not really sure what I want to do. I just know I'm not satisfied. It's not working. One of the things that we'll look at first is your strengths. In fact, in Success Compass, one of the S's on 6S is to focus on your strengths. If you can identify what projects you've worked on, what you've done well, what your strengths are, what you've experienced, you really have the meat of what you want to do moving forward. It's really actually a straightforward formula. If you write down all of these projects and tasks, what are the skills and strengths required to complete those tasks? Then let's say you circle the things you enjoyed. You can then take those particular skills and leverage them towards finding your next job that focuses specifically on those areas.
I like that a lot. I like that one. There's the six S's, and we're going to get
Thanks.
more into the other five here a little bit later. But part of that too is, do you ever have these self-reflection moments where people maybe have this false perception that everything in life should produce happiness and satisfaction and joy, and that I have a realization statement that I say with some of my clients: I want you to have the best job possible, but there's some part to every job, whether you're an entrepreneur in control of everything or you're the bottom rung employee, there's going to be some part of your job where you don't like that component, but the rest of it is satisfactory and good. You still got to do the lousy parts too. Do people you see, maybe an age gap, generation gap, try to escape having no lousy part to their job?
Yeah. Yeah, there is a reality there. It is a job. You do get paid for it. So the expectation that you're going to be 100% happy all of the time is a little bit naive. And like anything else in life, everything has their ebbs and flows. But I think leaning into that and identifying which are the parts that really excite you, the highlights, and also which parts are the lowlights and are they tolerable? Are they short term? I think is okay. To your point, people who've been through a lot in life tend to understand that life is just a lot about the ups and downs. So it is something to reflect on, but to understand it is a job. You do get paid to do it. So we all have to do things we don't like to do, right? Like maybe you enjoy making a really good meal at home, you don't like doing the dishes. It's part of the task. You got to do
Right.
it.
Yep. That's so important to hear, because I know some of our audience is fairly young and maybe just on their growth journey, and others may be a bit older, 55, 65, and saying, hey, I'm at the tail end. I just don't want to mess with this junk anymore. And I just want to do the cool, fun part in my twilight years of my career. And we still have to dial in expectations and reality. When you're talking with your clients and you're going through this coaching process, do you find that most of them have done very deep self-reflection and very deep searching? And if you find that some of them have they done it in any type of organized process?
Yeah, usually no. Usually they've identified that there's something not right, it's not sitting right, but often they don't quite know how to translate that into the professional space. I have one client, for example, who I've been working with for a little while, who was such a rock star in sales, and she kept doing really, really well at work, but something just wasn't sitting right with her. And she ultimately determined and figured out that she wanted to be an entrepreneur, something completely different, like a very, very big pivot. And so I've been working with her along that journey as she has started her own business. And she's so excited because she gets to still do sales, but on her own terms. So for her, that was a really big pivot. Her reflection was something wasn't sitting right in the sales she was doing. She kept doing very well in it, so she knew she had the aptitude, but there was something missing in the passion. So yes, we've been able to bring it back, and figuring out how to pivot and then helping my clients during the pivot is often something that we sit down and we do together as well.
I like that a lot. And as part of this transition journey, you're getting people ready to face resumes, face job applications, face interviews, and tell us about some of your initial stages in saying, hey, client, let's get ready for this next phase and we need to do these things. Walk us a little through that.
So I actually walk my clients through three phases when they're doing a job search. The first is phase one, which is exactly getting your resume, your LinkedIn, and all that upfront communication set up. And one of the things we touched on a little bit is making sure that when you have your LinkedIn headline or your summary on your resume, that you're highlighting the areas that you want to focus on, that you want to do in your next job. A lot of times people will think, well, I've done this, I've done that. I should talk about all these things I know how to do because I've done them, even though I don't want to do that in the future, which is a big mistake, because when people are looking at your resume and they're looking to hire, they're going to look at that summary and they're going to say, oh, Ryan, you're so great at this. Come on in and talk to us, without knowing that you don't want to do that. So it's really important to highlight and put your best foot forward for what you want to do. That's all in phase one. And then phase
Excellent.
two is a lot of mindset, going through that long slog. And then phase three is really getting the interviews and negotiation going.
I love it. I love that a lot. And I love the fact that you said negotiation, because I believe most people don't know that your hiring participation is really a two-way street. It's not just, hey, I'm qualified. Can I have this job? Thank you. But there's a negotiation because they have a need just like you have a need, right?
Mhm.
And so there's the opportunity to negotiate, and how to negotiate professionally and respectfully is really important as well. So imagine all of these things really start to thread in there. And of course, mindset. I have this thing called the 5 M's, and the first M is mindset. Everything starts with mindset and
Mm.
determines the rest of your trajectory in life. And so we have very similar characteristics here. And I like that. Can you emphasize for me? We've got about a minute left before we got to jump to commercial break. What not to promote? Can you emphasize that a little bit more for me? Because I don't think that's what people often think about. Wait, what do I need not to promote? More than just, well, here's a cool part that I don't want to do anymore, but I'm going to throw it on my resume because it looks cool.
What not to promote in terms of presenting
Of
themselves.
yourself through an interview, of yourself through the job prep, the LinkedIn, the resume.
Yeah, there's a lot more than 1 minute's worth, but I would say what not to promote are the areas that make you look unprofessional, or the areas where you really don't thrive, because it's not something that you want to perpetuate. So you really want to focus on your strengths. You really want to hone in on what you're good at. And most importantly, when you're talking with the other side, what can you do for them? They're looking at what's in it for me. Give them what's in it for you. Here's how I can help you.
I like that. I like that so much. This is a perfect stop for us to put in a pin for this commercial break. So we're going to be right back with more Alana, and we are going to have the final segment of the night, kicking off more of these issues. So stay tuned, and we're going to finish strong in just a few moments back here on Pivotal Change.